And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to us talking about Century: A New World and combining it with the other two games in the series, Century Spice Roads and Century Eastern Wonders. I can only show you the one box because I have both the first two games in this one. No room for the third. I'll have to keep them in two separate boxes. Now, if you're watching this, I'm showing the combination games. There's three of them. Combining 3 with 1, combining 3 with 2, and then combining all three games together. So for you to understand what I'm talking about in this one, you're going to need to watch my review, which is posted at the same time of Century New World, to figure that out. And I'm assuming you know how to play either the first or the second or both. Otherwise, if you don't understand that, what I'm showing you here isn't going to make a lot of sense. But I want to show you the three different combinations here and tell you what I think about them. So here we go. Okay, so first, this is the combination of the first and the third game. So this is considered to be part 1. This is called, well, I don't actually just called part 1, from east to west here at Spice Road and A New World. And in this one, you're playing with pretty much the same rules as A New World, but at the bottom of the board, you're going to be using the cards. This is the only thing you need from the first game, is the deck of cards. And also, some of these boards can be flipped over in this configuration. So first of all, when you take one of these cards, it gives you an exploration tile. Instead of them being on the board, we have them next to the board here, where you'll be able to grab them. There's, in a 2 to 3 player game, some of these spots will be covered over, so those can be done like the normal game, but otherwise you just pick one next to the board. But the big change here is the bottom of the board. These are new spaces you can go to. There's going to be 4 cards here at the bottom of the board. You can send workers to get these cards. Now, when you go to these spots, you can do one of two things. You can either immediately use the card. So I can immediately change 3 yellow cubes to 1 red and 1 green, or 6 yellow cubes to 2 reds and 2 greens, etc. Or you can take the card and put it below your display. And I'll show you that in a second. This lets you switch 2 cards in your display and gives you a yellow cube. This lets you wipe all 4 cards here and replace them, but then you immediately get another turn. When a player has a card below their display here, they can use these cards. So when you use a card, you just put a worker on it and use that card. However, if I want to use this card, if there's no one on this card, then I need to put a person here for each empty card to the left of it. So really the best way to use them would be in order, 1, 1, 1, but maybe I don't want to do that, so if I want to just start with this card, I'd have to put 3 workers on it. Again, there's that space that lets you change these cards around. You can have a maximum of 5 cards underneath your board, but you can always replace them. Any card that you do that's one time, you will be sticking here in a discard pile. This matters because there's a new bonus token now that's going to give you 2 points for every 2 cards you have, whether it's been discarded or put below the board. What this game does is it has you form kind of a machine down here of your own making that you can run, and you want to try to get, you know, maybe I want to put this card here, turn yellows into browns, and then I have the second card is turn browns into red, and so on. You can get kind of a nice combo going, just like the original game. But at the same time, we have these spaces on the board, and you're still placing workers and pulling them off. This is the easiest one to combine, because you don't have the board from the second game. And of all the games in this lot, this is my favorite combination, although it's not one I would play with newcomers because there's a lot more headiness going on. Trying to figure out the order of the cards to put down here and give yourself the most economical machine takes a little bit of work. And you can get so caught up in doing it that you might forget that these spaces exist, but they're also important. There's also a few different cards in the game that will give you resources when going to other spots normally. So this one here is in the original game, but there's a lot more spots now that there's different cards in the corner. Like this one here, going to a handshake spot gives you a red cube. That's a big deal, especially since there's so many of those handshake spots on the board. Okay, so now we're taking a look at Eastern Wonders plus a New World. Okay, this is part 2. This uses the third game and the second game only. You're going to build yourself a truncated map over here using some of the tiles, not all the tiles, of each of the different types, and you'll put your ship there. You're also going to take the player boards that players start with, and you're going to flip it over and put the different houses on it, so it's going to look slightly different here. The board is fairly similar to the other games, except there's now an entirely new section here, and you'll notice that the exploration tiles are back on, and these can be taken as normal, opening up new spaces. The game's going to play the same way with a couple of notable differences. First of all, when you go up to the forts at the top, you can take the cards, but you'll notice that the bonus tiles are over here now. Those are going to be coming from players finishing rows of houses on their boards here, and you also notice that you have room for 4 of these tiles as time goes by. Players can also place workers on this new spot. This is going to allow you to move your boat. Notice it lets you move your boat 1, 2 spaces, or once this one's open, to any spot on the board. When a player moves their boat, if you move into a spot with another boat, you're going to have to pay them a cube to be able to move there. If you decide to put a outpost there, you're simply going to pay 1 cube for each other outpost there. So this one would be free, while if I was here, there's already a white outpost there, I would have to pay a cube for that one. As you pay these outposts, you're going to be slowly removing them from the board, revealing points at the end of the game as you remove these off here. And remember, when you remove a whole column, you get to take one of the bonus tiles and put it here. There's also spaces on the board, as I mentioned, that you can move your ships, or you can use the spot where you have an outpost, any outpost on the board. And by the way, when you go to a spot with your boat, you can use that spot, even if you don't put an outpost there. This lets you use any outpost on the board, and this lets you use the spot where your ship is. So you can use these spots, you can move your ship and then use the spot immediately, so there's movement and or using the spots. So the main difference then between this game is the moving the ships around the board, and now there's getting points from here, and this is a different way to get bonus points. You can still get the regular cards in the normal way by going to the forts, and these are also worth points too. This version of the game is fairly straightforward. It's just like the first one, and I like this one too, but you have now the movement of the boats around. It's not a very big board, but you're just going to try to set up outposts and kind of set up a little bit of a connection stream over there as you try to put outposts out, which gives you kind of a customized space here. Like this space here becomes really powerful if you have like 3 or 4 outposts out, because that could be 4 different things. But it also means this space is going to be hotly contested, and it also means spaces that give you -1 on the handshake spots are going to be really powerful because you're going to want to go here more often. At the same time, moving your boat around, getting actions, and dropping off the outposts is pretty cool. And then once again, you can't forget the actual, regular parts here. There's a lot more exploration on this board, but which kind of changes things up, and it's going to force you, because there's not as many spaces at the beginning, it's going to force you to move your boat on the board, but that's not that cool of a deal. There's a slight bit more interaction in this particular game, but I like it. Not as much as I like 3 in 1 put together, but it's still a pretty good combination. Before I jump into rules for the third game, I should mention that you don't put houses on all 16 of these, in case I was confusing earlier. You're only putting it on the numbered spaces, so you only need to get 3 to finish one of these to get a bonus tile. And also, it's going to be faster to complete these rows and get the bigger points because of that. It's also because it's a smaller map. Now, the third game itself, which is Spice Road plus Eastern Wonders plus a New World, combines all 3. It's literally just a combination of the 2 games I just showed you. There's really no different rules. The only differences are you can see that there's more boards. So I'm using the 2 boards from the first combination and from the second combination. And the difference here is when you take one of these cards, instead of putting it below your board and having a machine you run, you simply use it and place it to the side and discard it. That's the only action you can take. However, as soon as you take 4 cards, you get a bonus tile. And there's new bonus tiles in this one. So here you can see if I have for every group of 3 symbols here, I get 5 points. There's also a 4-pointer card, a 4-pointer tile that's involved. So there's some new tiles involved in the game. But other than that, that's the extent of it. You're going to be moving your ship around, dropping the things off like in the second game, and then collecting these cards, which can possibly give you bonus tiles, as was in the first game. So all this combined. Now, This is probably my least favorite of them. I'll still play it. It's still fun. It's just that there's a ton going on. And it almost feels like this one was added in just to be like, hey, we can throw everything in. But I feel like this dilutes this slightly. And I really liked building the cards in that first combination of the game. And it also takes this and makes it a side game because you're also working on this. And so everything is slightly diluted. At the same time, it feels like a big, heavy Euro game. So if that's what you've been looking for, hey, Century's there. So the combination of this game is fine. I would rate this one probably a 7 out of 10. While the other two, the combinations, would both be 9s out of 10. Maybe 8.5 for 3 and 2, but 3 and 1, easily a 9. And I like it pretty much as just playing 3 by itself. Either way, you get all these games in the same box. We talk about Stefan Feld, we talk about Reiner Knizia, but honestly, Emerson Matsuuchi is one of the greatest designers alive. People don't realize that, but they should, because what he has done with his trilogy is taken a really simple concept, trade cubes for another cube, split it into 3 different games, made it so they all work together. Like I said, having all 3 together I thought was okay. But the fact that it exists makes 504, the game of 504 combinations, look like a piker. Because Century, which could be called 6, right? Because it has 6 different combinations of games. All 6 work, right? That's fascinating to me that happens. And this one is, like I said, probably my favorite of the lot, this one. So here's, if you come to me and say, let's play Century, I'd be like, all right, what are we going to play? We're going to play the first one? Great. We're going to play the third one? Great. We're going to play the third and the first together? Great. Those are my 3 favorites at the top. Boom, boom, boom. Then just slightly below that is a mixture of 3 and 2. Great. And then just slightly below that is a mixture of 1 and 2. Great. And then just below that would be 3, 2, and 1. But still, there's not a single combination that I dislike. They all work together really well. Now, some people might say, hey, you put all these together, you missed the simplicity of the original game. Sure, I get that. But 3 by itself is pretty close to the simplicity of the original game. And 3 and 1, it's like a step up. So think about this, okay? You want to get people into gaming. So you play Century Spice Road with them. Oh, they love it, they love it, they love it. You're like, hey, you like that? Let's play Century New World. You play that. They're like, wow, this is like the same thing, but neater. You're like, but guess what, guys? You can combine them. What? So then you combine them, and it's a little bit of a step up in the game. That's so cool. I like this. Fantastic. High recommendation. Century New World. Get it. Dice Tower Judgment. Excellent.